So my name is Edward Spector, and I'm a psychologist, and I have a private practice in Maryland where all I do and all I have been doing for over 10 years is help people with the compulsive use of technology. So every single person who's come to see me, with almost no exception, is there because they're using technology in a way that's not healthy for them. And I specialize in this over 10 years ago, maybe it was like 2009. And part of it was just by accident. I had a couple clients come in. I was working in a large private practice for children and adolescents. And I had a couple of people come in who were having sleeping problems. And those sleeping problems turned out to be actually compulsive tech use in the middle of the night. In the beginning, it was problems with gaming. And as the technology has shifted and morphed, we've really moved into all things technology. So a lot more dealing with phones, and just the sort of wherever you look, there's a screen or a device that you are being asked to intersect with. The vast majority of my clients are experiencing multiple problems. They're experiencing things like ADHD, anxiety, or autism. Those are some of the more common, or depression. Those are the sort of top four. And then those problems have intersected with technology in a very unhealthy way. And then the technology problem has become its own thing on top of it. In the beginning, what I was getting was almost exclusively 19-year-olds who had failed out freshman year in college. And then as society has smartened to this, and parents have, and educators have become more aware and tuned into this problem, I'm getting younger and younger referrals. So now I have a small handful of middle schoolers, a lot of high schoolers, and then a lot of 20-somethings. And I get the gamut from people who have dropped out of school or can't work and have been living in their parents' basement for multiple years, and they're playing 12, 15 hours a day, or just sort of lost to their devices all day and not doing anything. And then I have people where the problem is surfacing. So it's beginning to happen. So we're seeing people who are starting to truncate their hobbies and interests to all things technology. So they used to be really into soccer or in Boy Scouts or whatever, and then they've slowly whittled away to more and more internet-based or tech-based activities, and losing friends along the way, and other social outlets. So those kind of different pathways will all lead you to me. I'm often the third or fourth therapist. There are not a lot of therapists who specialize in this. And so people get bounced around a little before they find their way to me. So the gaming and the tech use that they're using is usually intersecting as a coping strategy with most of my clients. So they're most likely going to be using technology to deal with something. Either it's escapism, which is probably the most common, where their lives are upsetting, and so they game or do whatever excessively. And then their life gets worse because they're avoiding their life. They're not dealing with those problems in a more direct way. And then they need to game more to deal with the bigger problems, and it just sort of spirals out of control. That's probably a pretty common way that it's intersecting with their lives, as a coping strategy, as a way of escaping. But also it's unmet needs, IRL. So IRL is in real life. And many times, and the reason why that term is so important is that many times we see a pivot in the treatment when we bring their needs that are being met online IRL. So, they're able to be this whatever, that maybe it's like a really powerful person, or really effective, or really gregarious, or whatever, online. And if we can bring that IRL, then generally it then competes with technology, and technology can't compete with real life stuff. So, if I can get them engaged with friends, if I can get them to have a romantic partnership with someone, if I can get them to have a job and get real success there and feel really needed and productive, then often we're seeing a real shift at that point. But a lot of times people go more and more, I think, into these communities to get their social needs met, never more so than now during a pandemic, but that was true also before. So they're getting social needs met online, in part because maybe they're socially anxious, or they're trying to get help. So they're depressed, or sad and seeking guidance or help or support. And they're less inhibited to talk to people because you have the anonymity online that you need to feel comfortable. So when families come to me, because of course it's not just the patient, but families are intertwined in this as well. They're trying to help, usually their son, their kid. And there's been a history of lying. So trust has really been sort of destroyed in the family. And there's a lot of parental discourse and discord as they're trying to deal with these multiple layers of issues. So there's the mental health issues of whatever, whether it's internet, whether it's like ADHD or whether it's depression or anxiety. And then there's this other overlay of the kid is failing school. So the parents are getting bombarded by emails or calls from the school. Kid's not doing well. Often there's lying. The way to deal with a problem when you really can't deal with it any other way is to just lie about it and get away with it as long as you can. And so the relationships are really, really tense. And so we have to rebuild that. There's a lot of education I do with the parents first about what's going on with their kid and why they're doing what they're doing. They often don't really understand the communities and the technology that their kids are connecting with. My clients are very aware that there's a lack of transparency, there's a lack of privacy, and that I'm going to be talking about them with their parents. They agree to that to start working with me. And a lot of times they actually welcome it because I'm helping communicate better within the family, and I'm getting conversations started. Every family, every parent has a different parenting style. Sometimes the parents don't agree about how to handle technology or how to approach it. They all come from very different backgrounds. So you have to assess all of that before you make good decisions. One of the lines I remind myself of all the time is, the world is full of great advice given to the wrong person. And so I try to be really careful about giving advice where I think it's the right advice for that person and their abilities. And that I think it's going to be consistent with their values, their upbringing, and their approach. People's intersection with games and with technology is fraught with a great deal of cognitive distortion. And some of our work is going to always involve the cognitive piece of cognitive behavioral therapy. So often people are stuck online for very long periods of time because of FOMO, that's fear of missing out. And that is, even though they've just spent 7 or 8 hours doing that activity, whatever it is, they have this belief, this thought that if they leave now, they're going to miss out on something. And even though they might have been doing this for 10 hours a day for years, and they have all the data to suggest that nothing interesting is going to happen in that hour, they still believe it. They have the thought and they believe it. So much of the therapy involves evoking and understanding what those kind of thought processes are that are impacting each individual person, each individual client that you have, and then helping them using cognitive behavioral techniques to question those and reframe them and to restructure them so that they're healthier. And I will have people put little reframes on Post-its and put it on their laptop, like right in the corner, to try to remind them about that. And we will rehearse and we'll talk about like what's going to happen when this situation happens. What are you going to think about it? How do you really want to think about it? We talk a lot about how those sort of patterns of thought are repetitive and they happen so automatically. We just sort of accept them as true, but that we need to start questioning them. So in the moment they believe something that later when they talk to me, they're like, yeah, I know it's not true now, but in the moment it like totally seems to make sense. And so I stay on until 4 and then I can't go to school the next day or I can't go to work or whatever. How are these environments designed to create cognitive distortion in people and to fool them into spending more time than they intend to? They've gotten really, really good at it. And they're way too smart for us, for anyone. And so we are all victim to that. So I can't tell you how many times I've watched a YouTube video and then it tells me the next video I want to see. And I only went in to see that one video. And even with all my training and all of my experience working with all of these people and seeing the consequences and me studying this and paying attention to it, even I am like, oh, well, maybe I'll check out that cute video about cats. That looks really compelling. So we are all going to be stuck in these situations because the situations are designed to do that. And then some people are more vulnerable than others, and people with mental health issues, particularly things like attention deficit disorder, where you have a problem where you are inherently have difficulty controlling the spotlight of your attention. So once you're looking at something compelling, you have a hard time looking away. And that's like built into the way that your brain is wired, that problem exists organically. Then of course, if we attach you to the internet, where it's showing you the most compelling thing that could possibly be on the planet in front of you, you are not going to be able to look away. So certain problems really manifest worse once they are interacting with these technologies, particularly with these environments that are designed to hold your eyes. We have to understand what is the reason why someone's having problems with gaming disorder or with technology, sort of compulsive tech use. And if the answer is a problem that's temporary and recent, and the problems have emerged quickly and suddenly, then usually the recovery is equally as quick. And we can be pretty sure that the progress is going to be pretty dramatic, and then we're going to get them back at least to where they were before. If we have a problem that has been going on for 10 years, and it's based and rooted in organic problems that are not going away. So someone has autism, for example. Then all of our expectations change, and the progress and the expectations for progress need to change as well, because we're not going to cure them of autism. But I often see very significant improvement over a year or two as I help people recover from what are often very significant train wrecks in their life, where they are like obese, they have been in their basement and they have vitamin D deficiencies, they haven't seen the sun in a very long time, they haven't seen a vegetable or fruit in a long time, they haven't had a friend in a long time. And we can see these beautiful recoveries where, literally, like, you can see the sort of coloring of their skin, they get in shape, they reconnect with interests and hobbies that they forgot they even enjoyed in the past. And then they really appreciate the sun. They really appreciate life outside. I had a client once say, I was running a group and we all went on a bowling expedition, and we were all in my minivan driving to the bowling alley. And there's some awkwardness because the guys were talking awkwardly because, social skills and all. And one of the guys was looking out the window and he says, "Hey, I know this game. It's called Real Life. The graphics are great. The gameplay's a little boring, but maybe it'll get better." And then everyone sort of laughed and started talking. You can see this sort of spark that comes, and people find their way, and then they find where they can go in their lives and be successful. And you had a part in that. So that's what's sort of inspirational for me. I mean, I love my guys.